They come back after months of silence, and the return is rarely what it appears to be. Not grand gesture of changed person, not evidence of growth completed, not demonstration of capacity developed. Just return, just reappearance. Just them breaking the silence after you maintained it, after you enforced the boundary, after you honored their rejection by accepting it completely. The return seems significant, seems meaningful, seems like maybe they've realized, maybe they've changed, maybe they're ready now. The seeming creates hope, creates possibility, creates temptation to believe return means something transformed. But return usually doesn't mean transformation, means something else, means something less. Means they're back for reasons that have nothing to do with being different and everything to do with wanting what they had without becoming capable of sustaining what they had. The months of no contact did something to them, did create feelings, did create recognition that losing you was painful, did create regret about patterns. But feelings aren't capacity, missing isn't growth, recognition isn't transformation. Regret isn't change, they feel differently about losing you. But feeling differently doesn't mean being different, doesn't mean they've done work to address patterns, doesn't mean they've developed skills for intimacy, doesn't mean they're capable now when they weren't capable then. Just means absence made them miss what they rejected, made them want what they pushed away, made them regret what their patterns destroyed. And wanting what you lost is natural response to loss, is human response to missing someone. But human response to missing isn't evidence of readiness for relationship, is just evidence of attachment, of caring, of recognizing too late that person mattered. And recognize too late isn't same as ready now, is just awareness without accompanying capacity. Their return has specific motivations, has particular reasons, has exact intentions that are rarely the intentions you hope for. Understanding the real reasons they return is protection, is clarity, is information that helps you decide whether to engage or maintain the boundary that months of no contact established. The reasons matter because reasons reveal whether return is healthy or unhealthy, whether engaging serves you or harms you, whether their return is about them growing or about them needing. And growing versus needing determines whether return has possibility or whether return is just repeat, just pattern continuing. Just them coming back because they always come back. Because avoidance return. Because months of no contact doesn't change them if months of no contact weren't filled with therapy and work and actual transformation. And return without transformation is return that leads to same outcome, same patterns, same pain, same eventual ending. Just delayed, just repeated, just you giving more time to dynamic that already proved itself dysfunctional. The real reason they return, loneliness became unbearable. They're lonely and loneliness is driving return. Not love, not readiness, not capacity, just loneliness. The loneliness is real, is painful. Is avoidant experiencing isolation their defended state creates? During relationship, they had you, had connection even while staying defended, had intimacy even while maintaining distance, had you doing work of relationship while they stayed protected. But without you, they have defended state and nothing else. Have protection but no connection. Have walls but no intimacy. Have safety but crushing loneliness. The lonely while defended is worse than uncomfortable while connected. Is them learning that defending against intimacy also defends against relief from loneliness. That walls that keep people out also keep them isolated in. That protection that prevents hurt also prevents comfort. And prevented comfort is loneliness that's unbearable. The unbearable loneliness is what drives return, not them being ready for you, them being unable to tolerate being without you. The distinction is crucial. Ready for you means they've developed capacity to meet you. Unable to tolerate without you means they need you to relieve their loneliness but still lack capacity that ended relationship first time. The lack of capacity means return will fail, will create same dynamic, will end same way. Because loneliness relief isn't foundation for sustainable relationship. It's just them using you to feel less lonely while staying exactly as defended as they were, staying exactly as incapable, just not willing to sit with the loneliness that's consequence of their incapacity, and unwilling to sit with consequence is them avoiding the teaching loneliness was giving. Teaching that defended state is isolating, that patterns prevent connection, that staying defended means staying alone. The teaching through loneliness is gift, is natural consequence that could drive them to therapy, could drive them to become capable, but instead of receiving teaching, they're avoiding it through returning to you. Through using you to relieve loneliness without doing work to address what creates loneliness, and using you for relief is then coming back for wrong reasons. For reasons that serve them but don't serve relationship. For reasons that will create same problems because reasons don't include them being different. They're also returning because they tried to replace you and couldn't. Tried dating, tried meeting new people, tried finding someone else who'd give them what you gave them, but no one gave it. No one understood them like you understood. No one had patience you had. No one tolerated patterns like you tolerated. The irreplaceable you is them learning you were rare, were special, were giving them something most people don't give. And learning your rarity through trying to replace you is them recognizing your value too late. Recognizing after you're gone, recognizing through absence what they didn't recognize through presence. But recognizing value isn't being capable of honoring value. It's just knowing you were special while still being the same person who couldn't meet special you. Who couldn't reciprocate, who couldn't show up, who destroyed relationship through defended incapacity. And incapacity unchanged means return based on recognizing your value is return that won't work, won't last, won't be different. Because they value you now, but valuing doesn't create capacity, doesn't make them able to sustain intimacy, doesn't make them capable of relationship, just makes them want relationship while remaining incapable of relationship. And wanting while incapable is recipe for repeating same failure. They return because their ego needs to know you're still available. The return is ego-driven, is them needing to know they still have access to you. That rejection they initiated didn't cost them you permanently, that they can still have you if they want you. The ego need is about power, about control, about them maintaining sense they matter to you, that you're still affected by them, that you still care despite months of no contact. The needing to know is them being uncomfortable with uncertainty, uncomfortable not knowing where they stand, uncomfortable with possibility you've moved on completely. The discomfort with uncertainty is driving reach out, is them testing whether you're still available, still interested, still holding space for them. The testing through return is manipulation, is them using return as probe, as way to gauge your feelings without committing to anything, without offering anything, without being vulnerable about wanting you. Just testing waters, just seeing if you respond, just checking if door is still open. If you respond warmly, if you engage, if you show you still care, the response serves their ego, proves they matter, proves you haven't moved on, proves they still have power over you. The proven power is what they wanted, is relief to their ego, is confirmation they're still significant to you. But proven power doesn't lead to relationship, leads to them feeling validated and potentially disappearing again. Potentially pulling back now that they know you're still available. Potentially creating distance now that uncertainty is resolved. The pullback after confirmation is them getting what they needed from return. Needed ego validation, needed power confirmation, needed to know they matter. Got it through your response. And got what they needed means don't need to stay, don't need to pursue, don't need to commit, just needed to know. And knowing is enough. Is relief they were seeking, is return accomplished its purpose even though purpose wasn't reconnection. Was ego management, was power confirmation, was them making sure they still matter to you without them having to matter back through showing up, or being vulnerable, or committing to anything. They're also returning because they can't stand that you enforced boundary, can't stand that you actually maintained no contact, can't stand that you took their rejection seriously. The can't stand is them being bothered by your strength, by your boundary, by your self-respect that honored their stated want for distance. They expected you to break first, expected you to reach out, expected you to pursue despite their rejection, but you didn't. You maintained the silence. You enforced the boundary. You respected their rejection by making it permanent through your no contact. The respected rejection is bothering them, is making them feel less powerful, less significant, less able to control dynamic. Because controlling dynamic required you to pursue, required you to break silence, required you to do the work. But you didn't do the work. You let their rejection stand. You let distance be distance. You let no contact be actual no contact. An actual no contact is then losing control, is them being unable to maintain pattern of pushing you away while keeping you available. The lost control is uncomfortable, is threatening to their defended sense of power. So they're returning to restore control, to prove they can still get response from you, to demonstrate their rejection wasn't final, to show themselves they still have power to engage you. And power restoration is return being about them, not about relationship, about their ego, not about connection, about their need for control, not about their readiness to be vulnerable. They return because they've romanticized what you had. Months of no contact gave them time to romanticize, to idealize, to remember only good parts, to forget the dysfunction, to minimize the patterns that ended relationship, to create fantasy version of what you had together. The romanticized version is easier to miss than reality was to live. Is them remembering connection without remembering defended distance. Remembering intimacy without remembering withdrawal. Remembering good moments without remembering painful patterns. The selective memory is creating story where relationship was great except for timing, was perfect except for their fear, was right except for their inability to receive it. The except for story is them rewriting history, is them making relationship better in memory than it was in reality, better than it could have been given their incapacity, better than it should be remembered given how it ended. The romanticized memory is driving return because they want what they remember, want fantasy version, want relationship without patterns, want connection without defended distance, want you without their incapacity affecting you, but wanting fantasy isn't being capable of reality. Fantasy relationship doesn't require capacity, just requires remembering good parts. But reality relationship requires them showing up, requires them being vulnerable, requires them being different than they were. And being different requires work they haven't done, requires growth they haven't pursued, requires capacity they haven't developed. So return based on romanticized memory is return that will meet reality quickly, will meet their actual patterns, will meet their unchanged, defended state, will meet their incapacity that's exactly as present as it was months ago, and unchanged incapacity meeting romanticized expectations is recipe for rapid disappointment. For them, realizing relationship isn't fantasy they remembered, is reality they couldn't handle, is dynamic that requires more than they can give. And realizing reality doesn't match fantasy is them potentially leaving again, potentially withdrawing again, potentially creating same ending again, just with delay, just with you having given more time, more energy, more hope. To dynamic that was always going to fail because romanticization isn't transformation. They've also idealized you in their memory. You've become perfect person they lost, person who understood them completely, person who was patient infinitely, person who loved them unconditionally. The idealized you is easier to want than real you was to be with. Real you had needs, had boundaries, had limits, had expectations. But idealized you is understanding without expectations, patient without limits, loving without needing reciprocity. The idealized version isn't real, isn't who you were, isn't who anyone could be. Is fantasy they created through selective memory and desperate loneliness. And returning for fantasy you is them being disappointed when they meet real you again. When they remember you have needs they can't meet, have boundaries they can't respect, have limits they can't honor, have expectations they can't fulfill. The disappointed by reality is them recognizing idealized version was false, was protective fantasy, was story they told themselves about what they lost. But what they actually lost was real person with real needs they couldn't meet. And couldn't meet then is probably still couldn't meet now, unless they've done significant work, unless they've developed capacity, unless they've transformed. And transformed is unlikely, is rare, is minority of avoidants who return. Most return unchanged. Return wanting fantasy, return disappointed by reality, return creating same problems, return leaving again when reality doesn't match romanticized memory. They return to resolve their guilt and discomfort about how things ended. The guilt is eating them. Guilt about rejecting you, guilt about their patterns hurting you, guilt about ending relationship through their incapacity, guilt about you doing all the work while they stayed defended. The guilt is uncomfortable, is creating internal pressure, is making them unable to be at peace with how things ended. The discomfort from guilt is driving return, is them wanting to apologize, wanting to explain, wanting to relieve the guilt through making amends. The wanting relief is understandable, is human desire to resolve uncomfortable feelings. But return for guilt relief is return that's about them, not about you. About their discomfort, not about your healing. About their need for resolution, not about relationship having future. If you engage with guilt-driven return, you become vehicle for their emotional relief, become person who absolves them, becomes person who makes them feel better about how they behaved. The absolution seeking is them using you for their healing. For their comfort, for their need to not feel guilty anymore. But their guilt is appropriate, is natural consequence of their behavior, is teaching them their patterns hurt people. And relieving their guilt through engaging is removing the teaching, is making guilt go away before guilt drives change, before guilt motivates therapy, before guilt creates transformation. The premature relief is preventing their growth, is them feeling better without being better, is them resolving discomfort without addressing what created discomfort. And unaddressed patterns with resolved guilt is them being likely to repeat, likely to create same dynamic, likely to hurt you again, because guilt that would prevent hurting again has been resolved through your forgiveness before they've done work to ensure they won't hurt again. They also return because they need closure, need to understand why you went no contact, need to know if you've moved on, need to hear from you what happened from your perspective. The need for closure is them being unable to sit with ambiguity, unable to tolerate not knowing, unable to accept relationship ended without full understanding of why it ended and where you stand now. But their need for closure isn't your responsibility. You don't owe them explanations, don't owe them clarity about your feelings, don't owe them resolution of their discomfort with ambiguity. You enforced boundary, you maintained no contact, you protected yourself. That's complete, that's clear, that's all the closure that's needed. Their wanting more closure is them wanting access to you, wanting engagement, wanting conversation that might lead to reopening connection. And reopening through closure conversation is them using closure as strategy, as way to get foot indoor, as way to create communication. The strategic closure is manipulation. Is them framing return as innocent, need for understanding, when actually return is attempt to restore access, to create opening, to see if you're available for more than just closure conversation. They return because they genuinely believe they've changed. Some return because they actually think they're different. Think months apart gave them perspective. Think missing you taught them lessons. Think loneliness showed them what they lost. Think time healed their patterns. The thinking they've changed is self-deception, is them confusing feelings with growth, confusing missing with capacity, confusing a wreck with transformation, confusing awareness with change. They feel different, feel more aware of their patterns, feel more understanding of what they lost. Feel more motivated to be different. But feelings aren't the same as being different. Awareness isn't the same as capacity. Motivation isn't the same as developed skills. And developed skills is what relationship requires. Skills for vulnerability, for consistency, for emotional regulation, for showing up, for meeting partner, and skills aren't developed through time alone, aren't developed through missing someone, aren't developed through feeling regret, are developed through therapy, through practice, through consistent work over an extended period, through professional help addressing attachment wounds and building new patterns. If they haven't done therapy, they haven't changed, haven't developed capacity, haven't transformed patterns, are same person who couldn't meet you before, same defended person, same avoidant person, same incapable person, just same person who's more aware they're incapable and more motivated to hide incapacity, more motivated to perform capacity, more motivated to seem different without being different. The performance of change is dangerous, is convincing, is them believing their own performance, believing they're different because they feel different, because they want to be different. But trying without therapeutic support is trying that fails. Is motivation without skills? Is awareness without capacity? Is wanting to change without knowing how to change? And wanting without knowing how is failed change. Is them repeating patterns despite not wanting to repeat patterns? Is them hurting you again despite not wanting to hurt you again? Is them being exactly who they were while believing they're different? And believed difference without actual difference is cruelest return. Is them genuinely thinking they can be different, genuinely trying to be different, but genuinely trying without therapeutic intervention isn't enough, isn't sufficient, isn't what creates actual transformation. They return because they actually did the work and want to demonstrate growth. Rare return is return backed by evidence. Evidence of therapy, evidence of consistent work over months, evidence of developed capacity, evidence of transformed patterns. The rare return is different from other returns, is them reaching out with humility, with accountability, with recognition they destroyed relationship through their patterns, with commitment to being different demonstrated through actions, not just words. The demonstrated commitment is them showing you proof of therapy, showing you they've been in treatment, showing you they've done work, showing you they understand their patterns and have developed tools to manage patterns, showing you growth through evidence, not through claims. This return deserves consideration, deserves you investigating whether growth is real, whether capacity has developed, whether patterns have actually transformed. The investigation requires seeing evidence over time, requires them demonstrating new patterns consistently, requires them showing up differently, requires them being vulnerable about their process, requires them being patient with your need to see sustained change before trusting, requires them understanding your boundaries are protective and earned and won't dissolve just because they've done some work. The patient with your process is them respecting you, respecting that their growth doesn't obligate you to give them another chance, respecting that you have right to require extensive evidence before considering reconnection, respecting that you protecting yourself is healthy and their job is proving they're safe, not convincing you to drop protection. But even this return has risks, has possibility they've done some work, but not enough work, have developed some capacity, but not sufficient capacity, have changed some patterns, but not core patterns. The partial change is better than no change, but might not be enough for relationship to work, might not be enough for them to sustain intimacy, might not be enough for them to meet you consistently. And not enough change is relationship potentially failing again, just taking longer to fail, just failing after you've reinvested, after you've reopened, after you've given trust that gets broken again through their partial capacity being insufficient for relationship's needs. The risk is real, is you having to decide whether partial change is enough, whether some growth is sufficient, whether their effort deserves your reinvestment. The decision is yours, is based on your needs, your boundaries, your assessment of whether what they're offering meets what you require. And require is non-negotiable, is standard you maintain. Is you protecting yourself by only engaging if evidence is compelling, if growth is substantial, if capacity is demonstrated, if change is real and sustained and sufficient. Anything less is you accepting less than you need. Is you hoping partial change becomes full change? Is you risking yourself on their potential instead of their demonstrated reality? And risking on potential is how you got hurt before. Is pattern you need to break as much as they need to break their patterns. What to look for to determine if their return is genuine transformation. Look for specificity about their work. Genuine transformation comes with details. They can name their therapist's approach, can articulate specific patterns they've addressed, can explain concrete tools they're using, can describe attachment style in clinical terms, can identify their triggers and how they're managing them differently. The specificity is evidence, is them being able to talk knowledgeably about their process, because process is real, because they've actually done the work, because therapy has given them language and framework and understanding, but vague return lacks specificity. Is them saying they've changed without being able to articulate how, saying they understand themselves better without being able to explain what they understand, saying they're working on themselves without being able to describe the work. The vagueness is red flag. Is them performing growth without having growth? Is them using therapy language they've learned online without having done actual therapy? Is them claiming change without evidence of change? And claimed without evidence is claim you should reject, should require proof of, should not accept at face value. Look for change behavior immediately visible. Genuine transformation shows in how they engage. They pursue consistently, they communicate clearly, they're vulnerable about their process. They respect your boundaries. They're patient with your hesitation, they demonstrate through actions that something is different. The immediate different behavior is evidence growth is integrated, is real. Is them being different, not just claiming different. They reach out without game playing, without testing, without defended distance embedded in the contact. Just reach out directly, vulnerably, honestly. The direct, vulnerable, honest is different from defended, avoidant, strategic. Is them showing capacity immediately, not through words, through how they're being, how they're showing up, how they're engaging. The how they're engaging is most reliable indicator. Is their patterns being visible immediately? If patterns are same, growth is false. If patterns are different, growth might be real. Look for accountability without deflection. Genuine transformation includes taking full responsibility. They acknowledge their patterns destroyed relationship. They recognize their defended state was problem. They admit their incapacity hurt you. They take ownership without blaming you. Without making excuses, without minimizing impact, the full accountability is them being grown enough to face what they did, to name it accurately, to sit with discomfort of recognizing they caused pain, The sitting with discomfort is maturity. Is growth. Is them being able to tolerate shame about their behavior without defending against shame through blame or minimization. But false return includes deflection, includes them acknowledging some responsibility while spreading blame, while making their patterns your fault partly, while minimizing damage, while making it neutral when it wasn't mutual. The deflection is defended person still operating from defended state, still unable to take full accountability, still needing to protect themselves from full weight of what their patterns cost, and protected from accountability is unchanged person. Is person still too defended to do relationship, still too defended to be vulnerable, still too defended to sustain intimacy that requires full accountability as foundation. Look for patience with your timeline. Genuine transformation includes respecting your pace. They understand you need time, need to see sustained change, need to protect yourself, need to be cautious, and they're okay with that. They're willing to demonstrate change over months before expecting you to trust, willing to be consistent without requiring immediate reciprocation, willing to show up without demanding you show up equally. The patience with your process is them being secure enough to wait, secure enough to prove themselves, secure enough to understand trust is earned slowly, especially when trust was broken. Deeply, but impatient return can't tolerate your caution. Gets frustrated, you're not immediately trusting. Gets defensive, you're requiring proof. Gets hurt, you're protecting yourself. The impatience is defended person needing validation now, needing reassurance now, needing you to make them feel better about their return now. And need for immediate validation is unchanged person. Is person still centered on their needs, still unable to consider your needs, still operating from defended state that requires you to accommodate them rather than them earning your trust through demonstrated change. The questions to ask them that reveal whether growth is real. Ask them what specifically they've learned about themselves in therapy. Real answer includes attachment style identified, childhood wounds recognized, defensive patterns named, triggers understood, coping mechanisms developed, progress measured, setbacks acknowledged, ongoing work described. The real answer is detailed, is specific, is them being able to articulate journey. But false answer is vague, is generic therapy speak, is concepts without personal application, is them talking about growth abstractly, without being able to connect growth to their specific patterns and your specific relationship. The vague versus specific is reliable indicator. Specific means real. Vague means performed. Ask them what would be different if you reconnected. Real answer includes specific behavioral changes they've made, concrete tools they're using, clear understanding of what went wrong and how they prevent it going wrong again. Realistic assessment of their capacity, including limitations, humble acknowledgement they might still struggle, but commitment to staying engaged through struggle. The real answer is grounded, is realistic, is them not promising perfection, just promising effort. Promising tools, promising commitment to staying when it gets hard instead of withdrawing. But false answer is idealistic, is them promising everything will be different, promising relationship will be easy, promising perfection they can't deliver. The promised perfection is red flag, is them not understanding growth is process not destination, is them thinking therapy cured them rather than gave them tools, is them setting up false expectations that will lead to disappointment when reality includes them still having patterns they're managing, not patterns that are gone. Ask them how they'll handle their deactivation when it happens. Not if, when, because deactivation is core avoidant pattern. Is nervous system response to intimacy. A nervous system doesn't completely rewire, just develops new pathways alongside old pathways. So deactivation will happen. Question is how they'll handle it. Real answer includes recognition deactivation will occur, identification of early warning signs, commitment to communicating about it, plan for managing it, tools they'll use, support they'll access, request for what they'll need from you. The prepared answer is them understanding themselves. Understanding pattern will activate just committed to managing it differently, to staying engaged through it, to communicating about it rather than just disappearing. But false answer denies deactivation, says they won't deactivate anymore, says therapy fixed it, says you won't see that pattern again. The denial is them not understanding avoidant attachment, not understanding therapy manages patterns, not eliminates patterns. Not understanding growth is learning to handle patterns, not making patterns disappear. And not understanding, this is them not having done real work. not having real understanding, not being actually different. Ask them what their therapist would say about them pursuing reconnection right now. Real answer includes, therapist knows about you. Therapist has been part of processing relationship. Therapist has weighed in on whether reconnection is healthy. Therapist has helped them understand their motivations for returning. Therapist is supporting return, but with cautions and boundaries and awareness of risks. The therapist involved answer is them having therapeutic support for decision, having professional helping them navigate complexity, having guidance that's outside their own defended perspective. But false answer is, they haven't told therapist about you. Or therapist doesn't think it's a good idea, but they're doing it anyway. Or they don't actually have therapist despite claiming to be in therapy. The therapist not involved is red flag. Is them making decision without therapeutic input? Is them potentially going against therapeutic advice? Is them not actually being in therapy they claim to be in? Any of these is evidence return isn't backed by real work, real support, real professional guidance. And without professional guidance is them operating from sane defended state, making sane defended choices just with therapy language layered over defended patterns. The boundary you must maintain regardless of why they returned. You must require sustained, demonstrated change before considering full reconnection. Not words about change, not promises of change, not claims of change. Over time, consistently, in multiple contexts. With you seeing evidence directly. The evidence requirement is you protecting yourself. Is you learning from past. Is you not accepting potential, not accepting intention, not accepting claimed transformation, just accepting demonstrated transformation. And demonstrated requires time, requires them showing up differently week after week, month after month, requires patterns being actually different, not just hidden better, requires capacity being actually present, not just performed temporarily. The time to demonstrate is measured in months minimum. Is you watching their behavior over a significant time period before trusting, before opening, before being vulnerable, before giving them access to hurt you again. You must maintain emotional boundary during demonstration period, cannot go back to full intimacy immediately, cannot give them full access, cannot be as vulnerable as you were before. Must protect yourself while they prove themselves. The protection means limited contact, boundaried engagement, emotional distance maintained, heart guarded, investment minimal, just watching, just assessing, just seeing if change is real without risking yourself fully while assessment is happening. The protected assessment is wise, is appropriate, is you honoring that trust is earned, that your vulnerability is precious, that access to you is privilege they lost and must earn back through sustained change, not through returning and asking for it. You must be willing to walk away if evidence doesn't support their claims, must be willing to see clearly if change isn't real, must be willing to enforce boundary if patterns re-emerge, must be willing to say no even after they've returned, even after you've engaged, even after you've given them opportunity to demonstrate. The willingness to walk away is you maintaining your power, your standards, your self-protection, is you not being trapped by sunk cost, not being trapped by hope, not being trapped by their effort if effort is insufficient, not being trapped by guilt about rejecting their return if return isn't backed by real transformation. The willingness to reject return is ultimate boundary, is you choosing yourself over hoping they've changed, is you requiring evidence to justify risking yourself again, and without sufficient evidence is you walking away. Again. Finally. Permanently, with clarity that you tried. You gave opportunity, you were open to change. But change wasn't real, or wasn't sufficient, or wasn't sustained. And not real, sufficient, sustained is you protecting yourself, honoring yourself, choosing yourself, maintaining the boundary that no contact established, and that their return tested but that your self-respect maintains regardless. Why most returns should be met with continued no contact. Most returns aren't backed by real work, aren't supported by genuine transformation, aren't evidence of developed capacity, are just avoidant being uncomfortable with consequences, being lonely, being unable to tolerate no contact, being driven by ego or guilt or loneliness or romanticization to reach back out without being different. The unchanged return is recipe for repeated pain, for same patterns, for same dynamic, for same ending, just delayed, just with you having invested more, having hoped more, having risked more, having been hurt again by patterns that were always going to hurt you again because patterns weren't addressed, weren't transformed, weren't healed, just temporarily suppressed by motivation of wanting you back. and suppressed patterns re-emerge. Always. Eventually, inevitably. And re-emerged patterns destroy relationship again, create same pain again, end things again, just with more damage, more depletion, more time lost. Most returns are also avoidant testing whether they still have power over you, testing whether you'll respond, testing whether you've moved on, testing whether they still matter. The testing return deserves no response, deserves continued silence, deserves you maintaining boundary that protects you from being used for their ego management, from being used for their guilt relief, from being used for their loneliness relief, from being used for anything other than genuine reconnection based on genuine transformation. And genuine transformation is rare, is minority of returns, is maybe 5% of avoidants who return, maybe less. Most return unchanged. Return wanting what they had without earning what they had, through becoming capable of sustaining what they had. And wanting without earning deserves nothing, deserves continued no contact, deserves you protecting what no contact gave you. Gave you peace, gave you clarity, gave you freedom from their patterns, gave you space to heal, gave you opportunity to grow, gave you chance to find someone capable. And capable is what you deserve, what you require, what you won't compromise on. Not for their loneliness, not for their guilt, not for their romanticization, not for their claimed change without evidence, not for anything less than demonstrated sustained transformed capacity. And demonstrated sustained transformed capacity is almost never what return offers, almost never what reaching out includes, almost never what you get when avoidant returns after months of no contact. Usually you get defended person wanting same dynamic, wanting you to do same work, wanting same accommodation, just with them more aware they want it, more motivated to get it. More strategic hiding isn't growth, is performance, is manipulation, is them being more sophisticated in their defended state, not less defended. And more sophisticated defense deserves more sophisticated boundary, deserves you seeing through performance, seeing through claims, seeing through return to the unchanged patterns underneath, and seeing clearly is you maintaining no contact, maintaining silence, maintaining boundary, maintaining yourself, maintaining the freedom and peace and clarity that no contact gave you, maintaining the standard that you deserve real change, not performed change, deserve real capacity, not claimed capacity, deserve real transformation, not romanticized memories and guilty feelings and lonely desperation packaged as growth. You deserve real. And real is rare, and rare is worth waiting for, worth protecting yourself until you find it, worth maintaining no contact until evidence is undeniable that person returning is actually a different person. Not same person with better words, not same person with more awareness, not same person with increased motivation, actually different person. Person who's done the work, person who has the tools, person who demonstrates the capacity, person who shows the change. Person who proves over time that transformation is real, and real transformation is only thing worth breaking no contact for, only thing worth risking yourself for, only thing worth considering when avoidant returns after months of silence. Anything less is you accepting less, is you sacrificing yourself again, is you choosing hope over evidence, is you choosing their potential over your protection, and choosing their potential over your protection is how you got hurt before. Is pattern you need to break. Is boundary you need to maintain. Is no contact you need to continue. Until evidence is overwhelming, until change is proven, until capacity is demonstrated, until transformation is real and sustained and sufficient for relationship to be different than relationship that ended. Different enough to work, different enough to last, different enough to be worth the risk. And different enough is high bar. Is bar most returns don't meet, don't come close to meeting, don't deserve to meet because work wasn't done. Growth didn't happen. Transformation is claimed not real, and claimed not real is reason to maintain no contact, to continue the silence, to protect the boundary, to choose yourself, to honor the month. S, you invested in healing, to respect the freedom you gained, to value the peace you built, to maintain the standard you deserve, standard that says, come back different or don't come back at all. Come back with evidence or don't come back with words. Come back transformed or stay gone. And stayed gone is what most should do, is what's healthiest, is what protects you, is what honors the boundary no contact established, is what maintains the ending that was right even though it was painful, is what keeps you free from patterns that don't change. from person who can't meet you, from dynamic that doesn't serve you, from relationship that costs too much. Stay gone is answer to most returns. Stay silent is response to most reach-outs. Stay protected is wisdom for most situations where avoidant comes back after months. Comes back unchanged, comes back wanting, comes back needing, comes back without having become capable, without having developed capacity, without having transformed. Just coming back isn't enough. Will never be enough. Will never justify risking yourself again. Will never merit breaking the no contact that's protecting you. Protecting your peace, protecting your healing, protecting your future, protecting you from them, from their patterns, from their defended incapacity, from their unchanged state, from their return that promises everything while offering nothing real, nothing demonstrated, nothing proven, nothing earned, just offered, just claimed, just words without evidence. And words without evidence is reason to maintain silence. Your silence. The silence that says, I choose me, I protect me, I honor me, I require real, and real isn't what you're offering. So no, so stay gone, so boundary maintained, so no contact continues, so silence persists, so freedom stays, so peace remains, so you stay whole, stay protected. Stay honoring yourself, stay requiring what you deserve, what you need, what serves you, and what serves you is almost never avoidance return, almost never their reach out, almost never their words after months of silence, almost always is, maintaining the boundary, continuing the silence, protecting yourself, choosing yourself, staying free from patterns that don't change, from people who can't meet you, from dynamics that don't serve you, staying free. That's what serves you. That's what their return after months of no contact should be met with. Freedom. Continued freedom, protected freedom, freedom maintained through boundary, through silence, through no contact continuing, through you choosing you, always, finally, permanently.